How long have you been diving, Buzz?
I've been diving for 7 years almost.
Denise?
20 years.
20 years. And one of the things that I've seen is like the water is really, really hot lately, and the marine life just isn't there during the summer the way everyone from the 80s said it used to be. So it was definitely interesting.
It is disappointing because to date we've done quite a bit of damage to a lot of the marine underwater ecosystem. I think the push should be to try to preserve more.
Yeah.
So certainly the stuff that's in protection, keep that, but add to it if possible.
So yeah, we are in Bonaire, and this is a special episode of Only Lawsuits. We're shooting with the owners of Dayo Scuba, Buzz and Denise. Thank you for coming on to the podcast and giving us some time while we're out here in Bonaire. Wanted to really take an opportunity to discuss a few things, really diving related in Florida compared to Bonaire. First thing I wanted to touch base with you on is obviously marine life preservation. One of the big things I noticed while diving here, and I'm still very young diver, but I noticed the preservation efforts here in Bonaire are very good. And you guys know a little bit more about that. What are some of the efforts that you know Bonaire takes compared to Florida specifically? Denise?
Yes, certainly. I've dove all over the world, and I've noticed that the reefs in Bonaire are some of the healthiest in the world.
And do you think it's because they specifically say there's no fishing allowed?
A combination of no fishing and also the interactions with divers. There's great training on orientation on arrival onto the island. You don't get into the water until you're orientated about touching the reef, interacting with the reef. Buoyancy control is stressed, so there's a lot of the reefs we see are not as damaged as maybe some of the ones we'd see in Florida from that sense.
Yeah, and one of the first things we did, and it was the buoyancy issue. So it seems like, from what I understand, the dive resort has their home reef that you have to work on your buoyancy. Why is buoyancy so important when it comes to marine preservation?
Yep, it's critical because any interaction with the reef takes such a long time to recover. Even just a simple finger on the reef, a foot, a fin on the reef, leaves an imprint that can take decades to recover. So any little impact to that part of the reef, essentially it can almost kill just that section of reef. So then, it's not really a home for the fish anymore. So you can imagine thousands of divers every week, every month, every year, all having that interaction would have a big impact on the reef. So by orientating divers, checking out their buoyancy, making sure the weighting is correct, then we're minimizing that impact on the reef.
Gotcha. And I know, Buzz, you guys introduced me and Josh to a product brand you guys have, Next Destination. Talk to me about that. What's Next Destination? What do you guys do with that company?
Yeah, so the company name's Next Descent.
Or Next Descent, sorry.
And we produce reef-safe, eco-friendly products for divers, and not just divers, but really all water sports, right? So our two big products right now are the Devog solution, which is fully reef-safe, fully eco-friendly, and then the eardrops, which are for water sports. Really, anyone that does anything in the water is going to want to potentially protect their ears from damage or potentially head off anything at the pass, like an ear infection or anything like that. So we thought, there's already products like these on the market, but we thought we could probably contribute in a big way to help water sports professionals, water sports laymen, anyone who gets in the water, uses the water for hobby, to kind of, prolong that vacation, prolong that job that they have to do or anything like that.
Gotcha. And so when it comes to like marine preservation, how long have you been diving, Buzz?
I've been I guess I would be considered pretty new in the diving world myself. I've been diving for 7 years almost.
Denise?
20 years.
20 years. So where have you done a majority of your diving?
Majority of my diving is in Florida. That's where my home base is.
So comparing Florida's reefs to a reef like Bonaire, what are some of the things you've seen?
I've definitely noticed a difference. In Florida, a lot of our reefs, including the most southern ones especially, there's a lot of bleaching on them. Here in Bonaire, there's not as much bleaching. And then the quality of the reefs overall. Bonaire seems healthier. There's a lot bigger fish communities and more diverse fish communities.
20 years ago, that probably looked completely different, right?
Yes.
I always wonder, I'm only 7 years old, specifically in the diving world, and you got these old timers that say, "Oh, we went down in the Keys in the '80s,
Yeah.
and it was amazing."
The color,
Now
yes,
you go down to the
bleaching.
Keys, you have to really know where to go because everything is dead down there.
Yeah,
So.
there's the bleaching effects, or the bleaching incidences are becoming more common and more widespread.
Yeah, and obviously you guys do a lot of observation fishes and stuff like that. I enjoy spearfishing and killing fish sometimes, but they're different worlds. But I'll admit, like when I went down to the Keys, I've been going down to the Keys every year for about 3 years. And one of the things that I've seen is like there is the water is really, really hot lately, and the marine life just isn't there during the summer the way everyone from the 80s said it used to be. So it was definitely interesting. With that being said, obviously I'm sure you guys are aware of some of the efforts that are going around now with the new administration altering marine life protected zones. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, as a marine biologist myself and fish lover, I would like everywhere to be protected. I understand that is not an option. All of us enjoy the waters and the waterways in different ways. But I think absolutely the ocean is pivotal for, our recreation, for our health. It is disappointing because to date, we've done quite a bit of damage to a lot of the marine underwater ecosystems. So I think the push should be to try to preserve more.
Yeah.
So certainly the stuff that's in protection, keep that, but add to it if possible.
And how do you obviously in Florida we have a very heavy tourism based industry around like fishing, sport fishing, stuff like that. Obviously, as a fisherman I want to see balance in everything. But obviously the one thing fishing has taught me is that because we're damaging the ecosystem so much, I agree with you 100%. Like, we need to preserve this because I just had a baby. I want him to be able to fish 20 years from now and, enjoy the same things that we're doing right now. So I think that I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and some potential as well especially for up and coming divers. We teach a lot of our new divers about, ecosystems and the importance. For spear fishermen, I highly encourage everyone, no matter where you are, to spear the lionfish. They're quite destructive. They're an invasive species, and it's a fun intro fish as well to learn how to spear fish.
Yeah.
They have no natural predators in this side of the hemisphere where they are, so they literally sit on the reef and look at you. So it's really good for new divers, people trying out new, spear guns.
Yeah.
It's a really good starter fish, I think. And putting pressure, on that species is wonderful because we see the rebound everywhere else. There's scientists that collect lionfish. When we look at their stomach contents, they're eating everything but lionfish. So they're eating little fish, big fish. They get their mouth around almost anything. So putting pressure on getting those populations at least stabilized, if possible diminished, would be wonderful.
One thing that, you guys do this trip every year for how many years?
This is my 7th year out here.
And you guys always offer on a yearly to bring, some of your customers out and other people that want to come. Why Bonaire?
Health of the reefs for me. It's a beautiful place to teach fish identification classes. It's close to Florida, so some of it is somewhat familiar, but the reefs are a lot more beautiful. They'll see some similar fish, but they'll also learn about different types of fish, and they can expand that horizon.
Gotcha. So one thing that I loved coming out here, and I really enjoyed diving, because I am relatively new. Josh and I are relatively new into this, and we had a really crazy experience yesterday. For instance, obviously we were diving back to back to back, getting a ton of experience in, but you guys did a great job teaching Josh and I, from our perspective at least, on how to effectively handle the situation, because yesterday we were 40 feet down and Josh's back gave out. Instantly we knew not to send immediately, but obviously Buzz's perspective, he thought we shot right up, but you guys did a great job getting to us, getting everything under control. And Josh and I talked about it, and we were really, really glad that you guys trained us so well, because we knew to make sure to do the safety descent, stay calm, and although you guys didn't know what was going on, because talking underwater is extremely hard.
Yes.
Josh maintained his cool for the most part. Obviously there was a boat coming, which was super dangerous. And the one thing that I'll say is I'm glad you guys do it in a place like Bonaire, because the depth changes and the environment really, I think, helped with building the skills to really, we're doing the advanced class, building on those skills to get that advanced class. So I think this is a great location for you guys to choose. So
yes, it's beautiful diving and good diving so close to shore as well.
What did you think happened yesterday when you saw the incident from your perspective, because you were 70 feet down or something?
From my perspective, we were going to have a totally different day today than we're having, right? Because from my perspective, you guys were diving with another group, so we had another group, and then we had your group, and we had a couple instructors on each group and in between. I was splitting the difference, so that your group of instructors you did well taken care of, even though it was a little close. I know. And then we were taking care of our group. I look up and I see you guys. You want to talk about the perfect storm of bad luck. I mean, if you look out at Bonaire, we never see any boats, really. Yeah. We know we're out there. It's not like the Keys. It's not like West Palm Beach, But the path of the boat was directly over top of you guys, as you were probably a little bit too close to the surface than I would have liked everyone to see. Yeah. And it was a surreal moment for me, because me being so far away, I would say 100 yards away, I didn't know what was happening up there. Yeah, right. And this stresses now knowing what was going on, and there was a scenario that it was a situation that needed to be handled, and this stresses have a buddy with you all the time, right? Because if one buddy, for example, has a problem or doesn't have their composure, you need that other buddy to kind of kick in to high gear and kind of control the situation. No matter how new you are, these are the scenarios you train in that hopefully you never really have to deal with. But when push comes to shove, we all been in some kind of situation along that spectrum in some way, shape, or form. So keeping you guys off the surface and everything like that, away from that boat, is going to be it was very, very, from my perspective, way too close. But I'm glad, at least I'm glad you guys had the situation under control in the event of something happening underwater. And this is why we always try to stress solve your problems underwater, right? Yeah. The only problem that you can't solve underwater is being out of air. So solve them problems underwater and avoid those scenarios. It was a 1 in a million shot that there would be a boat overhead at that very moment. It's got to be at least 1 in a million.
But in Florida, that's not the case. Not
the case whatsoever.
So in Florida, we have been seeing a whole ton of boating accidents. I'm an accident attorney. We deal with boating accidents. I've dealt with people that have been killed on boats. I'm on the water all the time. Anyone that's gone on my boat knows I'm crazy about safety. People doing stupid things, I'll yell at them, I'll curse at them. I've gotten to the point where, my son Caden, he'll literally be the same like me, because he knows safety is priority. what would you like to see change in Florida specifically to keep scuba divers safe? Because as you know, being under the water, boaters don't know you're there.
Yeah.
What are some things you think could change in Florida?
The biggest thing for me is education.
Yes.
I wonder what the percentage out there of boaters and captains out there, well, captains,
Yeah.
quotation marks, really even know what an SMB is when it's coming out of the water.
You don't even need a license to get a boat, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. What do they know what the diver down flag means? I really want to know if that data is out there, because I think that a large portion of it really, or how far do I stay away?
Yeah.
You know, as a captain, if I'm captaining my own personal vessel, how far am I supposed to stay away? You know, like one of our guests this week said, you know, if you put up your SMB, the jet skis will do donuts around it. That's
true.
a joke, but it's we say that because we're Florida divers, and that's literally what they do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody does that, but we've definitely seen it happen.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
it's misfortunate because we train our divers, you know, to use an SMB, to use a flag, and it's a little disappointing then when, you know, the boats really don't understand, you know, it's supposed to keep them safe. We tell them do that to keep yourself safe, and sometimes that doesn't, you know, always work.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the one thing I'll agree with. As a boater, it took me about a year of YouTube to learn how to effectively drive my boat. And I say that jokingly, but you know, there's a lot of great YouTubers out there, content creators that put stuff out there on how to properly navigate, how to properly maneuver in you know, dockways or even around sandbars, stuff like that. So, you know, I think education, I agree with you 100%. Education should be the focal point, and I hope the legislators do something about it, because as an injury attorney, I don't like seeing people get hurt, and that's one of the things that, you know, I know you guys are really, really good at trying to prevent is injuries. So, but look, guys, I really do appreciate you guys being on the podcast. We're losing sunlight, so obviously I think we're going to end. But, you know, I hope we're able to join you next year and be back in Bonaire.
Yeah, be good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Peace.